Saturday, December 21st, 2024, 7 p.m. Saturday, December 21st, 2024, 7 p.m. That's how I've started several hundred recordings at this point. Every day since roughly the beginning of 2024, I have come out here to walk somewhere in the vicinity of about 5 miles a day. Hello friends, it's me. Lone Complex. Or the person behind the digital identity of Lone Complex. I always kind of think it's interesting how people they kind of adopt these names and then they kind of become attached to them as if like, well, there's really a person behind there, you know? Anyway, I have hundreds of these recordings, and I have considered always, not always, but I have considered sometimes posting one sooner or later that basically describes what has occurred in the last year or so. And every time it kind of devolves into a lot of just non sequitur or rambling or ranting. Of course, people who have talked to me before know how I am. And so I'll try to keep this one as succinct as possible to give you at least one side of the coin of what has happened in the last year, and hopefully appropriate context, as well as make it a little educational and entertaining. See, that's the hard part when you're walking around in circles and it's cold for here because it's about like 40 or freezing thereabouts. I'm fully coated up. I'm sure Gambit and every Canadian just laughed at me. It's like, oh, 40 is like shorts and t-shirt weather in Canada, but yeah, it's 40 Fahrenheit. But yeah, I'm going to skip. Now you got to remember to keep this on time and to try to keep your precious attention span. I'm going to skim a lot. There's a lot of detail that I'm just going to have to gloss over. I've realized this every time I start to try to talk about this. And I also sat down and I thought about scripting something up, but scripting something really omits the kind of like unfiltered emotion, which I don't want to get out here and start screaming or anything, but it kind of omits some of the raw humanity of it, because it is precognated. And while there are some things that I want to choose my words very carefully about, there's other things that just have to just kind of be said from the heart. And so that being prefaced, I will begin. I've always been in shape most of my life. Not all of my life, but most of my life. And I could show you all my little accolades from high school where I did a bunch of team sports. I did track and field. I did football. Of course, I did drama. Like I was. I don't even classify myself as a theater kid, but I was pretty close. Let's put it that way. If I wasn't one, but yeah. Coming out of high school, I finally got out of organized sports in college. Did not bother doing them in college for a bunch of reasons. Wasn't in great shape during college because I wasn't really pushing it. But by the time I was about 25, went back to lifting again. And by 2013, I was ripping, 4-plate deadlifts. 4-plate deadlift, by the way, is 4 plates on each side. That's 405 pounds. And I was weighing about 165 or 168. And I was 168 and about 10% body fat. That was all natural. That means no drugs, no steroids, no chemicals, no crazy stuff like that. That was just years of what sometimes is called monk mode, or really just when you really spend 24 hours a day in an extremely disciplined format, just living diet, sleep, and exercise. Diet, sleep, and exercise. That's all you're doing. You're working. I mean, yeah, I had a job. Obviously, I was working at the family business by 2013, but it was just diet, sleep, and exercise every time I wasn't doing something for work. And even then, it's like, you're packing your lunch, because you can't eat out, God forbid. It's all loaded with fat and salt and other shit. So you have to everything is involved in that. So I think I have some videos and pictures left over from that time. Maybe I'll post those up along with this, because I guess this is going on YouTube now. Of course, if you're aware, I took everything off the SoundCloud, moved it to YouTube, because I always knew, and people were telling me from the very beginning, they're like, dude, why do you put your stuff on YouTube? People will play it like in their streams and then their little role plays. And I'm just like, it's a huge trouble, not a huge trouble, but I have to put it through Premiere or some kind of video editor to get the actual MP3 into the format that will upload to YouTube. And of course, there's all the compression. Anyway, off topic, see? Like, and I'm sitting here trying to render. So let's fast forward to, and again, I can't say this word because it will get it somehow flagged by YouTube's content system, but we go into the era of C19, the letter C and the number 19, 2020. And I'm still I had stopped powerlifting at the end of 2013, but I had stayed in shape. I went back to a kind of everyman shape, just doing kind of everything. I definitely, you cannot powerlift forever. You just can't. And I wasn't really working out during C19, and I got VR at the end of 2020, because of course I somehow fell in. God knows, I don't remember how I fell in exactly. I stumbled upon it on Twitch, and it was like Hat Kid in AA or something was the very first thing I saw. And it was this episode with him and Albrecht and like a couple of others, and they were in this ring. They were all standing in this kind of like somewhat kind of like pentagram trap or something, and nobody could move, and everyone was screaming. And I was like, is this D&D? What is this? Of course, it's like, I think a lot of people might remember the very first time they kind of saw this stuff going on, but quite interesting, especially when you're stuck at home. And of course, everybody knows that the beginning of 2020 was the real just like surge for Twitch, obviously. Like if you look at anyone's Twitch stats or in general, oh my God, dude, the beginning of 2020 and about the next 3 to 4 years, that shit just ramped right up, man. And so I was one of those people in that wave, obviously, who were looking at Twitch now. So sometime I get VR, everybody knows that. I was in FT season 2, and sometime around like the middle or late middle of FT season 2, maybe like the last 25% of it, I started noticing when I was driving to work, my left foot was going numb when I was driving, or sometimes when I was sitting down, and I had this tingle kind of in my toes that would never really go away. It was very faint at first, of course, but it would grow, with certain activities. That tingle eventually came all the way up to my knees, even bilaterally, which I was just like, oh my God, like what's going on? I figure this has got to be some kind of lumbar issue. Okay, again, I'm skipping a lot of shit here. I figure it's some kind of lumbar issue. After about 90 days of mistreatment by a provider, I instruct them in a very would you kindly kind of way to give me a full MRI of my spine, all 3 views, that is cervical, lumbar, and thoracic. And they do, because I tell them to. And basically, all the damage was in my cervical spine, aka your neck, my neck. And T3, T4, T5, T6 are the worst ones. Bone spurs all up and down. DDD, that's degenerative disc disease. Spondy or spondylosis, which is, or stenosis, they're kind of the same thing. A narrowing of the nerve canals that run horizontally out of your spine. And I'll go ahead and tell you, anytime one of those gets touched a little too hard, one of those get a little pinched a little too hard, trust me, you will know. Now, why were the symptoms in my legs? The only reason can be is because there was not just impingement on the side, meaning the peripheral nerves that are going out to your arms or your legs or things like that, or from that joint to my arms, from T3, T4. But there's central cord impingement. This is the only reason there can be symptoms in my legs from a joint disorder in my neck. So, of course, everybody has seen if you're listening to this, you have seen the stupid little "I'm retired" tweet. I left it up there for about 2 years. So everybody knows why. Glad to have been a part of everything and what have you. But eventually, even after I retired, which I think was around August of, let me see if I can get these dates right. 2022, I kind of stuck around. I did stick around for a while. Going into 2023, I had redone the entire FT economy, which is about 180 or 200 pages of just, it's like a source book. I say 180, 200 pages. It's not like it's, blowing up the, oh my God, what a big number. It's like, it's mostly just kind of flavor text. So don't worry about it. So I redid that. I was allowed to remain as a kind of voice in the wind and narrate from a desktop. I played Porto the doorman behind a door you could never open because there was never anything there. There's us. There's me. That's who's there. It's me, guys. Yeah, I'm behind the door sitting at a desk with a microphone because I can't put a VR headset on. I gave my VR stuff away, by the way. I mailed it off around Christmas of 2022 to somebody who I still think is using it to this day. So hope you enjoy that. And I'll fast forward mostly to current because that's probably what you want to hear about. See, I usually get stuck on all that other shit before trying to describe everything. So I think I got through it now in about 10 minutes or less. So hopefully I still have your attention. If not, well, it's too bad. Coming out of 2023 and into 2024, on around New Year's of 2024, I injured my neck again, and I did it trying to assemble a pull-up bar that I was putting together for physical therapy, and I was making a mistake. It was heavy, obviously, but I was doing it very, very carefully, and it wasn't because I lifted anything or not because I did a pull-up or anything. It was because apparently my traps or my trapezius, that is the muscle that goes from your shoulder basically to your neck, that kind of muscle in that triangle area between your shoulder and your neck, that when you tense that up a lot, you can put a substantial amount of pressure on those cervical vertebrae because, again, that trapezius is attached. That's where the attachment point is. It's attached to your spine, right? And so when you stress that and when you're like tensing that, and I was tensing it to cinch down some of those aircraft nuts, these plastic threaded nuts that they give you to put this thing together. I apparently tensed it a little too fucking hard because, oh boy, for about 3 days after that, around New Year's, I was basically incapacitated. This is also when I started listening to a lot of audiobooks. Because, guys, when you are motherfucking incapacitated in the bed and all you can do is just lay down and face up at the ceiling and not move, and that's the only position that will basically allow you to exist, like you can exist in without pain, at least substantial pain, you better find some way to amuse yourself or something, because then audiobooks is kind of one of the only things you can fucking do. It's just lay there and listen. You can't move your hands, you can't read, you're borderline paraplegic. And it wasn't that I couldn't move, I could move, it just hurt. It just fucking hurt a lot, and I didn't feel like being in constant pain. So 3 days after that, finally got the fuck over that. Little by little, I was able to get up, move around, actually do real work. And of course, ordered all the things. I already had all the things, really, let's be fair. all the neck braces, all the immobilizers, all the torture devices. I already had all this stuff, guys. I was already doing all this PT and bullshit. But in January of 24, excuse me, somebody's car is quite loud out here. In January of 24, that was a really serious, just like another eye-opener where it's like, you are running out of time. You are running out of time, you dumb old man. You are running out of time. And I even had a subsequent occurrence around like early February, and I forgot precisely what it was I did, but I remember just the pain coming back in an awful way. And the other thing I remember is February, sitting there some night in February, and I forgot what it was I was doing. I think I was just trying to play some video game to get my fucking mind off of it. Vidya James, by the way, is an ancient meme. And I remember getting up to get something pretty late at night, and when I got up from my chair, my left leg kind of lagged a little bit, and I almost stumbled. And I knew immediately what it was. I knew immediately what was going on. That lag, that like my leg wouldn't. This is not like a little thing. This is like a gross motor interruption, and that's like when you're like, oh, that's actual paralysis. Like that's full on. Like, hey, you might not be able to walk. You know, if you're gonna be this stupid and just lay here, or just wait for this to happen. So, and I'm skipping over a lot of stuff, so we'll get back around, hopefully with enough time in the end, to talk about some things you might be more interested in than just my physical state. But in February, I wasn't gonna make some announcement. I wasn't gonna make some big hubbub about it. I wasn't gonna cry and bitch to anybody or anything like that, although Brunswick heard me bitch quite a bit near the end there. I finally just was like, I was spending too much time doing two things. I knew, really three. One was sitting in Discord at all. Well, as fun as that is, and as fun as it is to quote unquote socialize, at least on some level, digitally or otherwise, I really had already, in so much of my life, spent enough time doing that. It's a great pastime, and I'm not saying you shouldn't hang out with your friends, but I was just definitely spending far too much time when I would get off work. I would never get on when it was during business hours. Oh God, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that. It was in the middle of busy season at the time, and I was already, going to work with an Aspen. To keep it brief and as short as possible, I swear to you, and I didn't think this was true. It's like I didn't fully understand it. There is a level of pain that will literally drive you insane. And and that's all I'm going to say. Like I said, I could go on for hours about that shit, but if there's anything I'd leave you with regarding agony, and some of this is in the book, by the way, there's a lot of descriptions of this in the book, kind of in a more prose-like format, but there's a level of pain that will absolutely drive your dumb ass insane. I don't care how willful you think you are, or how strong-willed you think you are, or disciplined, or whatever else, man. There is a level of constant pain. I'm not talking like a day. I'm talking like a month. It will eventually wear you down. It will erode your mind. Sooner or later. Some people might last a little longer, but I'm going to tell you it will. Lucky, knock on wood, or anything, because I'm just out here walking. Never took a psych med in my life and never will. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to take that shit. Never did drugs, never will. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not saying I'm better or worse than anybody. I'm just not going to fucking do it. It's just me. I'm just not going to fucking do it. I'm not going to take something that's going to try to alter my mind. Not in that way. But anyway, so kind of in February, I realized, one, I was spending way too much time sitting in Discord. And two, simultaneously, sitting in Discord and playing some kind of video game. I've played enough video games in my life. I'm not saying they're all the same, but at this age, and I'm older, guys, obviously you guys know that. At this age, it's like, they're fun. Make no mistake. Video games are fun as hell in a lot of ways. And it's a great way to take your mind off something. It's a great way to kind of ignore, the present. And yeah, dude, like when I'm in pain or when I was in pain, I still do it now. Man, if I can stand it, video games are a great way to just veg out and take your mind off of it. Even better than just watching something like a movie or a stream or whatever. If you can sit there and kind of play a video game, it's a way to stimulate your mind at least a little bit and take your mind off of the pain or just whatever state you're in. But I know, and I knew then, and I know now, and always have known really, I'm just kind of passing time that I have a limited, I'm passing time that is quickly running out. A little quicker than most people's, or at least I'm not saying that I'm going to die, y'all, for Christ's sake. I don't have cancer, okay? I am saying that I'm trying to stave off surgery, spine surgery, and that's a constant battle. Again, hours of stuff I could tell you about spine surgery, about the whole medical side. I'm going to skip it, but for time, and just say that I don't want spine surgery, and you should never get spine surgery. You should, realistically, and you might think you can call me crazy. You can say I'm exaggerating. You can say I'm being dramatic. I don't care. I know what I know about spine surgeries. I have seen many dozens of them come across my desk. I have seen hundreds of orthotic injuries come across my desk. And here's what I will tell you. Getting something like an arthroscopic elbow repair or getting an arthroscopic, rotator repair, that's fucking nothing. You get spine surgery, it will alter your life permanently, probably for the worse. I'd probably give it about a 50-50 shot. You come out with a complication. And then of that complication, I would say that complication has about a 50-50 shot of being not just permanent, but debilitating in a manner that you will wish for death. I definitely would say, without trying to be too edgy, you should actually consider dying or just living with agony and like pain management, meaning Norcos. Norcos is a combination of opiates and acetaminophen, even fentanyl, stuff like that. You should consider basically burning up your liver for the next 10 years, taking opiates and Norcos and shit like that, than getting spine surgery. Because once you commit to that, you are taking the devil's dice and you are rolling it and you're praying you don't hit, that nat 1 or not even a nat 1, like you don't hit like under a 10 basically. Because if you do, your options will be very limited at that point. Best case, you go back in for a revision and they somehow unbotch the botched surgery. Again, hours I could tell you, so I'm not going to go off on that except to say that my time is limited in the fact that, I'm like, every time I sit down to play a game, I'm like, fuck man, I'm wasting time. I'm like, I need to be doing something productive. I need to be working on the book. I need to be, even if it's just working on music, I need to be making something. I can't sit here and just wait to go paralyzed, You can't be productive all the time, but it's the same thing. Again, the Discord is kind of a siren song in the sense of it's like, yes, let's just sit in here and chill. Of course. I'm not saying that's wrong or bad. I'm just saying that I guess I feel like at this stage in my life I've done it enough, and as fun as it is, and it is fun. I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm just saying that I'm more, like I said, I'm more acutely aware now than ever in my life, where it's just like, fuck, man, you are running out of time. And again, not because I'm dying. I'm running out of time until just the countdown to my discs finally doing what everything does and succumbing to the weight of entropy. So that's one. Video games, Discord. The third thing I was definitely spending too much time on was fucking Twitter. I don't care about Elon coming or going or Blue Sky or any of that other shit. Really, in general, it's just social media. It creates this very false sense of consensus. We are, now again, I could go on this for fucking hours, so I'm going to skim it. We're consensus-seeking animals. We always have been. Humans do not fare well in exile, typically speaking. So we kind of evolved to seek consensus from the people around us. This, again, like there's safety in the tribe, there's safety in numbers, there's safety if what you believe, is what everybody agrees upon. We're seeking consensus. So when you post that little thing, whatever it is, and you click post, and someone likes your shit, you're like, oh man, your little dopamine, bing, goes off. Your little hardwired consensus engine is triggered, and you're like, ah, yes, this is a tacit affirmation of what I just posted, right? No, motherfucker, somebody just clicked a button. Somebody just clicked a fucking button. And it's like the nuance of it goes far beyond that. The nuance of shit like that. What is it like? You even see people who have to put disclaimers where it's like, what? Oh God, what is the exact phrase? But basically it's like likes aren't approval or something. Like people will put that in their bio or some shit because they'll like a post and oh my God, you liked a post from this guy who posted this thing about this opinion and whatever, you fucking canceled. Oh God, don't get me started. So yes, safe to say that I was definitely spending too much time on Twitter, and I was already. So we're getting close to the other side of the coin here. Let me check. I should be about 30 minutes in. Yeah, see, I'm right on time. I was definitely spending too much time on Twitter. So basically I got the fuck off, or at the very least, I just pared it down to such a degree that I post and interact with it, generally speaking, a fraction of what I used to, maybe 10% or less of what I used to. And it's been great, at least in that regard. It's like, yeah, it leaves a kind of void, but at the same time, it's a good void that you need to fill in a better way than social media, I think. So that being said, from February on, like I said, I bailed from almost every Discord I was in. I essentially shut down my Twitter, and I'm not saying I stopped playing video games altogether, but I definitely made a concerted effort to stop playing them as much, because it's just a much needed void. I carved out a void where I was filling it with these things that were just time sinks, really, in a lot of ways. And from February on, I started recording these every day when I'd go out and walk, because, and we're getting around to some of the stuff after where you probably don't know yet, but I really can't exercise regularly anymore. Like I said, I've lifted, I've sprinted, I still have my state championship ring. I probably wore it maybe a dozen times, from high school. I attained levels of strength that most people will never touch, from a body mass ratio perspective. I did a lot of things, and it's frustrating. I wish, I'll try not to get too emotional, but I wish I could express to you the kind of frustration it feels like to try to even so much as pick up around the fucking house or the apartment or whatever, and you go to grab something that's like 10 or 20 pounds, and a little voice is inside your head now that was never there before that says, you better be fucking careful. Oh, be careful about, picking that up right there. You might hurt yourself. I can do it. I can fucking do it. I can sprint. I can jog. I'll just pay for it immediately. Or like shortly thereafter. Either my left side will, start to go numb or get neuropathy, or something like that will occur. I can pick up weight. It's not impossible. Jesus Christ, guys, you just move your hands, right? It's not that hard, but I'll pay for it. I know I'm damaging something when I do it. And trust me, my body will let me know I'm damaging something when I do it. So it's supremely frustrating for somebody like me to exist in this state now. And a state, you got to understand, it is a one-way street. Age, too, like age, It is a one-way street. I'm not the kind of person who's like, it's never going to happen to me. Like, I'll never get old. This isn't just getting old. This is slowly transitioning into a cripple. It really is. I actually even considered, I was like, man, I really should get one of those handicap parking tags or whatever. I really should get one of those now. Fuck. And it ain't like, making a mistake, guys, it ain't like I'm in a wheelchair, and it's not like I'm on crutches, and it's not like I can't get around. I can fucking get around. I walk fucking 5 miles a day if I can, or thereabouts. So it's not like I'm fucking immobile and I can't, exercise. I just can't do the things I want to do. I'll never rip, a 405 deadlift off the ground ever again. I'll never rip 225. That's 2 plates, by the way. I'll never rip 225 off the ground again. And that's humbling in a way that I can only tell you in words, boys and girls. I can only tell you in words what that feels like. And the words can only convey a shadow of what that feels like. I can get angry about it. I can get frustrated. I've cried. I've laughed. I've done it all about that. But it's not going to change a fucking thing, is it? I guess I was lucky that I had a pretty substantial case of ongoing tinnitus, because I was very used to dealing with things that you simply cannot change, and that lasts forever until you die. Tinnitus will go on until you die. You will never get quieter. You can basically train yourself to ignore it better. That's about all you can do with tinnitus. And boy, mine is very loud these days. So I say all that to say that that's the state I was in February, and what has happened since then has been hundreds of hours of these recordings. Hundreds of hours of recordings. Some of them journals, some of them have been notes for the book, some of them have just been a variety of things. I thought about posting some of them at times, but never did. Because why? We'll get to the other side of the coin here, but I'll fast forward to now and just say that I still watch VRRP when I can. I still watch little bits here and there. The things I'm going to say now, so we'll go ahead and kind of transition to the next side of this coin and talk about the scene, as it were, or the community, or VRRP, or VR, or any of the things that I would say that most people who are going to listen to this know me from. So buckle up, Homestuck, because this is the part that probably should be scripted in a way, because you cannot. Let me try again. So I might go a little slower here because at least my words. I got to keep my pace up here walking, but you cannot utter anything in this space without it causing like a ripple in a pond, right? It's nigh impossible. I'm going to take you back to the beginning. So, physically, again, to let you know, yeah, I've been to the neurologist. I'll kind of round this off. Been to the neurologist many, many times. Finally, I found a neurologist who's a genius. I'm scarfing down gabapentin like it's candy. We'll start on the other side of the coin, talk about VR, because everybody wants to hear about VR, don't you? Yeah, that's why you're here. You love VR. I do too. I love VR. The problem is putting a headset on with a neck condition isn't exactly the best thing to do. And I considered certainly getting one of those big screens, right? And doing that with an immobilizer on, obviously, to lock my neck up so I wouldn't turn it or twist it or anything. But even then, I wonder, I'm like, is that just a fallacy? Like, is that wasting time, is it wasting time if you're having a good time? Is it wasting time if you go back and try to make your own project? Is it wasting time if you try to create something? I think those are questions that people have to answer for themselves. And, it's like I said, I'm at a state in my life where I really have to think carefully about what I spend my time on and to consider what is valuable and what is not. You can make your own equation based on your own position in life, right? So whether or not I get one of these ultra lightweight headsets or whatever the fuck it is and ever come back, I don't know, man. I want to. There's a siren song to VR that was particularly VR roleplay, at least in the highest form of it, that I consider like some of the higher forms, like the really structured stuff. FT, Blackwell, things that are really structured. That's what I like, of course. Always have said that. And, when you get into stuff that's just improv RP in the pug, no, I'm not talking about that. And VRC, who knows? Like it will maybe it'll die one day. I think a lot of people who spend the most time on there, people like avatar creators or people who are crunching out assets and really making their bread and butter there, they're like, well, I know that VRC will die someday, but I can then market myself as a 3D artist or, some kind of engineer or a CAD design or something like that, working in Unity or whatever, right? So what I'm trying to say is that even if VRC dies, I think that something like role play itself, quote unquote, and using VR as a medium will probably endure forever from henceforth now that VR is a thing, right? Anyway, but the community, boy howdy. Where do I begin with this? There were an entire script worth of a podcast called the Venn diagram that I had held back on and just never bothered to finish because it described the kind of three overlapping forces where the three kind of major circles where in the conflux of those three things existed VR roleplay as most people know it today. And those three things, let's see if I can remember this off the top of my head. Those three things are streamers and or streamer culture, VR as a technology, and then I think the third was the third just like straight up role play? And I think the third was just role play as a pastime, if I remember correctly. And when you intersect all three of those things, you get VR roleplay. And note that, streamers and streamer culture are inseparable from VR roleplay for a lot of reasons I could get into. That's really the thing that I would focus on the most, because there's a high chance that a substantial number of people, not everyone, but a substantial number of people would never know VRRP exists were it not for Twitch or some kind of streaming platform. Of course, the majority of people are streaming to Twitch. But even Rob, God, I hate to even invoke his name, because really, again, talking about somebody or a thing that you cannot even so much as utter without it's like a pebble dropping in the middle of a pond. If you say the words Rob or Gator Lobby, it immediately just invokes this wave of trauma, right? Or this wave of just like, what did he say about insert person here or thing, right? Because just like the ancestor said from Darkest Dungeon, people are by their nature loquacious. So it's just to say that, even Rob's highly aware, and a lot of the OGs, I guess, are aware who continued streaming from that time, would tell you that many people in the world wouldn't know about VR chat if it wasn't for streamers in general using VRC as content to stream or streaming VRC content. That doesn't necessarily mean RP. That's just anything on VRC, VR chat. I would completely agree with that and say that yes, VR as a spectacle, absolutely, dude, is something that streamers, generally speaking, push to the world as part of their kind of entertainment offerings. You could say their channel, the programming on their channel. But going back to the Venn diagram, that intersection, guys, of streamers, VR as a technology, and roleplay, in the middle of all that, you get VR-RP, and as we know it generally. And I think that anyone listening to this knows what I'm talking about when I say the VR-RP community, or really even the VRC community. There's a very well-defined, in my mind, a very well-defined demographic that tends to frequent VRC. That is VR chat. Again, note that I'm saying VR chat. VR chat is like the ocean in that regard. The ocean, of course, is predominantly made of water, and it has, even though the ocean has different zones, the Hadal zone, the continental shelf, the this, the that, right? It's like there's a constituent nature to the ocean that cannot really be altered because it is so huge. VRC is much the same way, in that VRC has a constituent population that really, to me it seems to be almost homogenous. If there's a really tight age range to VRC, it's almost predominantly made up of people who are around the age of 18 to young 20-somethings, something like that. You will find older people, again, statistically close, but the standard deviation, the mean in the middle of the whole stat plot is going to be around that age, right? And there are other things that you can kind of lump in there. And what I'm getting at, guys, is that this lends itself to a very particular kind of social environment. And I think that it's that kind of social environment that you see spawn a lot of the social reactivity that occurs in VRC or VR roleplay. It is a kind of Ouroboros. And the reason that it is an Ouroboros, the reason that you can't utter a thing in the space at all is because of the demographic. And furthermore, because the demographic is also not just like someone between the age of 18 to 20-something, or someone who, for example, seeks out new things. Obviously, usually somebody who's in VR is going to be somebody who is interested in the novel. Meaning the new, not the novel is in the book, but the novel is in the new. They're interested. Even now, it's almost like you still need to be an early adopter. You have to kind of Frankenstein your setup even to get some of these things to work in VR. Even now, you've got to kind of mod your stuff. There's very few, at least for VRC, if you want full body and some of these other things, there's very few just plug and play. You put it in and it's Ready Player One. Just being it doesn't work that way. Anybody who's done it knows it doesn't work that way. So this demographic, guys, there is a pervasive mentality, and it is typically a high school mentality. It's like the water being wet, right? It's like water being wet. You can go swimming in the ocean and you can wear a scuba suit. You can wear a full dive suit to try to protect yourself from getting wet in the ocean. But I'm going to tell you guys, you're still in the ocean and you're still surrounded by water. And all it takes is one tiny little breach in that suit and boop, you're going to get wet. You're going to get some of that water on you. And that's just the way it is because of what VRC is made up of. Even the projects that will try to insulate themselves from that, they are comprised of it. Even if it's filtered, it could be very filtered ocean water. You can try to keep out all the stuff, that is perhaps causing the most irritation. But sooner or later, and every project knows this, there has to be an inflow. There's always an attrition. Every project has attrition. every project has people who either get bored or just age out or they leave or for whatever reason they quit. And it's like, so you have to have an influx of new people, whether fast or slow, depending on your turnover, to keep the project's momentum moving forward, or just maintain, right? And that requires you to fish or to pull usually from what? The ocean around you, from VRC, from people who are already in VRC. And I'll tell you where this kind of started with me. Besides in the very beginning, because like I said, Frat Kid was the first person I saw. So he dropped in his Discord and, chatted him up for months. And it's like, yeah, well, Lone, there is drama in this environment. It's like, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth or anyone's, but this kind of sentiment of like, hey, this can be a drama-filled environment. Everyone knows that. And I was instructed on that before heading in. I didn't fully understand it or realize it until, and I want to say this is around the halfway mark of season 2 of FT. And basically, from that moment to about, when was it, like February of 2023? Yeah. So between like the halfway point of FT season 2, which I don't remember the exact date, and then February 2023, I have heard from no less than 3 people almost the identical sentiment. And that sentiment is the following. Now again, this is not one person, guys. This is 3 people over this span of time who have independently all told me the same thing. Are you ready? Here's what it is. I am keeping a dossier. I have files on everyone, or I have files on a select number of people. Those files contain chat logs. Those files contain voice recordings. Those files contain screen grabs. Those files, basically, TLDR, contain blackmail. At which point, and it comes a time when it becomes either convenient for me, or they come after me, or I'm strung up, I'm dumping this on them, or just to everyone. In a Samson option-like fashion, if you don't know what that is, it's nuke everyone if I am attacked. Kind of type thing. It's like a mutually assured destruction kind of type thing. And I'm sitting there and I remember the first time I heard this, I almost quit. I almost quit everything. I was so demoralized the very first time that someone yelled that to me, that's like, I have files on people. I'm like, that is the most sociopathic thing I have ever fucking heard. That is insane. Sitting here keeping people's deets or docs or shit like that. And it's like, what? But, I guess over time, by the time it came around to like February of 2023 and I heard and saw it for the 3rd time, at that point, I'm just like, oh, I see. Like, everyone's doing it. Like, that's not, I'm like, I didn't meet a demon. I'm just in hell. Like that's what I found out. That's what I finally learned. That's what it took almost a year or more, really. Again, the span of time between those 2 dates, I don't know exactly, but it's about a year for dumbass Lone to pick up on. I didn't meet a demon. I'm just in hell. And there are no angels in hell. It's just demons and sinners. That's it. And I'm not sitting here, I use the fucking analogy, and I'm not sitting here trying to castigate everyone. What I'm trying to say is just that, yes, this is the environment. This is the kind of environment that it cultivates. It was funny, like, I was on a stream, I was watching a stream, and somebody's like, that's going in my cringe compilation, like some little snapshot in VRC. And I was like, well, there's only 2 folders in the VRC directory. One is cringe and the other is blackmail. It's like, that's it. When you've got your screenshots, for VRC, you've got the one labeled cringe and you've got the one labeled blackmail, and it's like the kind of nonstop, whether it's overt or covert posturing that goes on about that kind of shit is just exactly what I called it. It is sociopathy. It is full on sociopathic to do that. And I get it that people are like, well, I'm just defending myself. I'm just preparing for the day that somebody does it to me, and so then I'll be able to fight back. It's like escalation, right? It's like, oh, well, the crooks got guns, so we get guns. And the crooks get semi-automatics, so we get automatics. And da-da-da-da-da-da. It just like escalates, right? I get it. But eventually, to kind of stop the cycle, I think somebody has to say, I reject. You know, eventually somebody has to say, nah, I'm good, man. Like, I'm not going to participate in something like that. And if there were anything that would, oh my God, stay my hand from ever thinking about like, oh yeah, man, go get that big screen. Just say, I'm not going to do action. Lock your ass up in a neck brace. Only go for like 2 to 4 hours at a time. You can get back in there alone. No big deal. You enjoy it. And it's a fun environment, at least for, you know, in moderation. Please don't ask me to be on any 9-hour sessions or anything, but it's a fun environment in moderation, and you can still enjoy it, you dumb old ass man. You better do it before you get in a wheelchair. You better do it while you still can, you dumb ass lone. You better get in there and get your stupid ass in there while you can still walk around, you piece of shit, because then your dumb ass will be in a wheelchair, and what are you going to do then? You're going to put Dorst in a wheelchair? And honestly, I think Bruns would let me show up as Dorst in a wheelchair. Oh God. Hello, Arnold. There's been some changes around Adwick. You have no idea what I had to do. Get all these goddamn rat men out of my city. Anyway. See, I'm laughing because it would be hilarious to do that. It would be enjoyable. It would be fun, right? It's all fun. But man, dude, what lies beneath? What lies beneath? And the kind of passive aggressive, backbiting, backstabbing, that just lies beneath every fold and crevice. I just can't. Like that's more than anything. I will tell you, and I had already, even before January of 2024. So again, I'm going back to trying to show you the other side of the coin here. Even before January 2024, I looked at like the people who were following my Twitter and realized I didn't know like 90% of them. I had no idea who these people were. Like, who the fuck are these people like watching all my tweets? Like, what do you care? I think I was probably muted on most people. Like, they're probably like, I'll click follow and then I'll mute him because I don't want to unfollow him. And then he's like, oh my God, so-and-so unfollowed me. And it gets into this whole social media, like I said, this whole social media, like consensus fuckery, right? Where again, it's like we said, oh, well, if friending is like a tacit approval, then unfriending, oh my God, guys. Girl, did you hear that Jeffree Star unfriended James Charles? It's Dramageddon 2.0. Did you guys know I like followed the whole makeup community for a little while? I did. It was very amusing. I got pretty good with it for a little while I was doing YouTube. When I did YouTube, I had to be on camera more, so I had to like teach myself makeup. So that was how I got into that. But anyway, it's just to say that, yeah, guys, I was already in the process of paring that thing down, man. And I'm like, and I'll tell you what really pushed me over the edge. It was just one cancellation after the other. It was just one after the other that I kept seeing happen. And I'm just like, that's not something I want to entertain. I remember telling people before, I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to be canceled. I was like, I'll cancel myself. And what I always meant was like, I'll just bow out, man. Like, I'll just like, I'm just like, I will reject. It's like I said, I reject. I'll just like back out. It's not personal. None of it is like, oh, you're a bad person or whatever. But it's like, if you don't want to get wet, get out of the fucking ocean. Right? If you don't want to get wet, get out of the ocean. And so I, even before January 2024, was in a process of just, in the time that I would spend on Twitter, I'd be skimming back through my shit, just deleting shit, or removing followers, or basically figuring the day that I was just going to be like, I'm just going to lock it down and stop using this stupid social media because it's dumb. It's dumb for all the reasons I just talked about. The community, the community, such a loaded term, but the community, you can go about it in such an idealistic manner. I heard that VR chat is implementing like the 18 and up, like age verification. A good step, sure. I will tell you what I think about it. It's to protect the people who are over 18 more than the people who are under 18. Could talk about that for a long time, but I think I'm running out of time here. Let me check. Yeah, I'm right at an hour. So to not, drag your attention out any further, it's Dante's Inferno out there, guys. The final layer of Dante's Inferno, past, wrath, greed, gluttony, and lust, and all that other stuff, and sloth. The final layer of Dante's Inferno is treachery. And the third time I finally heard someone say, I'm literally keeping, this is paraphrased, obviously, but I'm keeping a dossier, and I have files on people, and I collect blackmail for the day at which it becomes appropriate to use these things. And this isn't like, somebody off in a far corner. And even then, you know what you're thinking right now? I know exactly what you're thinking. Well, who are the three people, Lone? Does it matter? Does it fucking matter? You see, it gets into the nature of, it's almost like let's say a Kafka trap, but it's definitely a kind of psychological trap. When you even talk about it, this is why I was so reticent to even post or record anything like this, because just like, I hate to even use this analogy, but Voldemort, just kind of like Voldemort, it's like saying his name gives him power. Talking about it gives it power. It gives it credence. And it's so awful to do. It's like, because the instant you do, everyone wants to start what? Going for their files. Everybody wants to start going like, if they're coming after me, I've got mine, I've got my shit ready to go. I've got my group chats. I've got my screenshots. I've got my voice recordings. I've got my, and it's like an arms race. It's an escalation of the whole thing. And that's disgusting. It's disgusting. I think that VRC, and like I said, VRC as a demographic, because it is, and let's just be fair, less mature, generally speaking, from a socialization perspective, it tends to trend that way. It trends towards like a high school level socialization. And adults do the same shit too, guys. I'm not saying adults fucking don't. I'm just saying that, it gets back to kind of like, God, what was it? I screamed it like on the divider, on that neon divider thing, the very first one I made, or somewhere else. And I said, if you give a shit about your relationship with somebody, you will grab them. And even if it hurts to fight, you will fight and work it out. If you give a shit, you will grab that person and pull their ass in close and say, oh, excuse me. You will grab that person and pull their ass in close and you will say, we got a problem. And if we got to fight to fucking work it out, I'll work it out. But I don't want to lose you as a friend. I don't want to lose this as a relationship. Okay? And like, even if that is painful, you'll do it because you give a shit. And if you don't, you will just walk away. You'll just walk away. It's the petty folks who will, it's kind of like taking parting shots and then walking away like, oh, you can't touch me. I'm over here. I've dumped my blackmail and now I'm innocent and everything is fine. That's what everybody wants. They want to bloody the other person while remaining spotless and clean, right? And that, again, it's petty shit. It's the most petty, sociopathic kind of thing. God, it reminds me of one of the most sociopathic things I ever heard a person utter physically in my presence. And it was an insurance agent. And they said, Mr. So-and-so, Honesty is a tactic. Yeah, honesty is a tactic. You can get the fuck out of my office is where you can get with that shit, Machiavelli. Okay, therefore a wise prince will seek a means by which his subjects always, and in every possible circumstance, have need of his guidance. You're such a fucking genius, just manipulating everyone, right? Seriously. So not long, I'd probably say sometime around mid-2023, mid to like June or August of 2023, I was already paring things down, guys. I couldn't see it again. I could not sit there and watch another person get canceled or some other bullshit like that happen. But it will. It's funny. I heard somebody go off on a stream fairly recently and say something like, there's so it's like, why doesn't the community do something about all these sex pests? If I see one more sex pest, I'm just going to go fucking insane. Why doesn't the community do something about all of these people who have been outed, sooner or later for just gross sexual misconduct or some bullshit like that, either harassing other people sexually or, oh God help you, dude, like soliciting a minor or something like that. And we ain't talking like they're 18 and the other person is 17.99999. I mean, we're talking about, it's a little different than that. It's kind of like willful and knowing neglect or, malicious intent, that kind of type shit, and I'm like, well, why, right? And basically the person responded with the following. They said, oh, I know why. I'm just disappointed. It's like, I know why it happens. I'm just disappointed, And I think if there's anything besides the physical that stays my hand, that's like every time I'm like, whoa, yeah, it would be cool to come back and, just like show up as Ambrose, just like one day in the middle of Nodus and just be like, whoa, guys, where's everybody been? Jeez, I heard about this person named Miss Maya. Whoa, that kind of shit. It would be hilarious. It would be fun. I would love it. It would be awesome. Like what happened to Mr. Mirandell? Like that or whatever, right? Or something like that. Or who knows, right? It would be hilarious. It'd be fun. It would be amazing. Or worse yet, I publish the book and then come back and dump a bunch of money and try to build a project off of it or something, right? Sure. Sometime 2025, 2026, after the book is published, yeah, man, go back and, cultivate everything back up and run the one you always wanted, the one you always dreamed of, right? It's so cool to think about that. It's a siren song, man. There's nothing quite like the immersion of VRRP. There's nothing quite like being able to virtually act out all of these characters, and you can do costume changes with a flick of a switch. And you can do these amazing things. My God, dude, you can do everything from the most kind of gritty medieval battle to full-on anime gods trying to fight one another with laser beams and explosions and shit, right? All of it just at the tip of your fingers through this technology. But God damn the community. God damn the kind of sociopathy that runs through the heart of it all. The environment, man. And it's like, God, dude, I wish I could just wrangle control of it somehow and iron out every one of those wrinkles and just be like, I have fixed it. And it is so, like but you can't iron it out any easier than you can iron out all those wrinkles in people, because at the end of the day, like I talked about the ocean, that ocean is full of people with all their wants, wishes, and desires, people with all of their tedium and mess to them, people with all of their baggage. And everybody's got it. Everybody's got their own problems. Everybody's got their own baggage. Everybody's got their own little red wagon of stuff, right? And they're going to bring that with them everywhere they go. People are infinitely tedious and messy, and I'm a person too, so I am included in that as well. And that's what you're going to get. You're getting this grab bag, you know. You can filter as best you can. You can keep the gate, and I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with keeping the gate in the right way, right? You can keep the gate, try to cultivate the community, quote unquote, that you're willing to tolerate and you're willing to put up with. And that's about the best you can do to keep yourself dry in the ocean. Yeah? That's about the best you can do to keep yourself dry in that ocean. But my God, dude, that stuff is out there and it will never go away. Unfortunately, it will never go away. People are, by their nature, loquacious, right? So yeah, for all the wonder and all of the spectacle and all of the amazing things that can be done with it, it hurts my heart to know how deep the rabbit hole goes on the other side. And I feel very much like I did the very first time I was told that stuff, where I was so demoralized and I was like, I don't know if I want to continue to do this at all. I don't know if I want to continue to do it at all. I almost quit the whole thing. I almost was like, take the headset off. I'm never getting on VRC again. Like, that was in the middle of FT season 2. And again, guys, it's not like it was one thing. It reiterated, not 3 different occurrences, 3 different people. And I was shocked that over time, I'm like, I keep seeing this Ouroboros come around. I keep seeing it. It's never going to end, is it? And so, you know, I think that stays my hand just as much as the physical constraints do. I could easily, like I said, put on an Aspen brace, put on a mobilizer, you know, right? I could go get a big screen and I could say, you know what, old man, you need to have your jollies now, because Lord knows, dude, you wake up tomorrow, your left side could be fully paralyzed and it might not ever come back. Or you might go in for surgery and then you come out and you pray for death. You can't control anything from the neck down. You know, you better enjoy life while you can, right? But goddamn, man, that's more than anything. I'll kind of close with this and say, the worst I have felt physically, not otherwise, but the worst I have felt physically over time in the last year, and it's been a roller coaster. There's been some days, whoa, I'm like, hey, I feel pretty good. Holy shit. There's other days, it takes courage to get through. And the worse I felt physically, the more motivated I am to work on the book. And the more I've hammered out. I think it's about like 80,000 words of finished prose now. And that's polished prose. That's not just like scribble. I plan to have it done sometime in 2025 and published. I considered publishing under my real name, but for obvious reasons, I'm just not going to do that. I could go on about that for a while, but I won't. And after that, after the book is done, I don't know what will happen. We'll see what state I'm in physically. But until then, I have no plans to necessarily, quote unquote, reemerge. I will say this. If I've left any discords, guys, none of it is personal. If I've, unfriended or unfollowed people on Twitter, that's absolutely nothing personal. I'm always here if anyone wants to reach out and talk. I've spoken with a variety of people like over the last year. And I guess this is just a kind of year-end recap for me, if you cared to even know. I'm not going to obviously publicize this video or say like, well, hey, look at this if you want to know. Like, no, I'm just going to post it. And if people see it, they see it. And if they don't, oh, well, I guess if they're not looking at, I guess it's like if you don't care enough to follow, then who the fuck cares? Right? But none of that shit is personal. If people ask like, why didn't you make a Discord? I got asked that a lot. Not in the last year, but even before. They're like, why don't you make a fucking Discord, man? You know, just say what you want there, or post your own stuff up there. Like, people would follow you, people would watch you. Why don't you stream? You know, people like, you could easily do that. And it's like, yeah, I could, but what the fuck is my Discord about? Me? Is my Discord about me? I don't want necessarily a monument to my, like, let's say a monument to myself. It's like, as much of as an egotist as I played as Dorst, I truly do try to be as humble as I can in reality. And I'm just like, what? It's like, it's my community, my audience, my viewers. It gets into the whole streamer side, right? Where it's like the streamer is trying to cultivate some kind of brand that is based around themselves, or a character that is closely adjacent. And then they've got like a collection of, categories of content that they're trying to produce. Like, oh, like this person does ASMR, this person does speed runs, or this person does, like, you know, chill games, or like whatever, just da-da-da-da-da-da. And so you're kind of like trying to gather this collection of like minds in your own little space, you know, and communicate and interact with them, right? And I guess in most cases, for the streamer who has aspirations to do more than just stream for fun, the thing past that is, well, now I need to monetize this bitch. and so then you're, you know, you got your Patreon, you have your merch, you have your money. You know how I feel about fucking money, if you've ever heard me say that. Even way back, God, I think it was near the beginning of COVID, and I saw what the fuck was going on with the economy, the U.S. economy, really the global economy. And I made a quote then, and I think I said something like, greed. I said, if there's anything, I think this is what's posted at the top of my Twitter now, and it says something like, if anyone comes back and ever views these tweets, like if anyone ever looks at this page ever again, I want you to know one thing about like what I've learned in life, and that is greed is eternal, and money destroys everything it touches without exception. And I can tell you, working in the field that I do, and seeing people destroyed by greed on a routine basis in the insurance industry, yes, it's true. Wow, kind of how poignant now. What day is it? Like, when did Luigi Mangione, you know, pull his shit? And you go look at United's denial rate. Jesus. So yes, boys and girls, if that wasn't evidence enough, greed is eternal, and money destroys everything it touches without exception. Said the same thing way back on one of those podcasts. I had a whole spiel about money and about how you need to be very careful if you're going to really start fueling your projects. It's like, boy, be careful. Soon as somebody gets a whiff of that, you know what they're going to want? They're going to want a slice. And then as soon as it's like, what is it? Give a mouse a cookie. And you know what a mouse wants? You give it a cookie, it's going to want some more. And that's how it works. That's how it works. Seen it 1,000 times on a much larger scale. Talk about commissions. So I'll stop talk about commissions and just say this. Lone Complex is alive. This recording is proof of life. If you haven't seen me type stupid little words in a chat here or there on a stream, I am alive. Maybe one day I will come back to VR roleplay. By then, who knows if it'll be the same space or something totally different. I am still working on the book. I plan to have it published sometime in 2025. I wouldn't expect it to be something spectacular. I'm not William Gibson. I can tell you that much. I wouldn't expect too much, guys. I will say this. It's been somewhat fun writing it. God, it's been a struggle at other times. But the working title was 2133. I don't know what I'll call it in the end. I even published the first chapter in audiobook, just kind of testing it. And or I put it on SoundCloud for a while. So it's not up now because it's changed a little bit. But yeah, it started out cyberpunk, and then it just turned into like sci-fi western, basically. We'll see if you like it, and if you don't, fuck me, I guess. I spent hundreds of hours writing it. I like it for the most part. It's not perfect, but yeah, that's me. That's what I'm doing. I'm alive. Let's hope I'm not paralyzed the next time you hear me on voice or see me in VR or some kind of digital interaction that we may have. And until then, I will leave you with something I've had to tell myself many, many times in the last year, sitting there in agony or laying down or dealing with neuropathy throbbing through my fucking left side or my feet or shit like that will never go away. It will never go away. It will end when you die. But in the interim, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Y'all have a good one.